This is A Strategist, episode 1848. Jay, my name is Zain Velji. With me, as always, there's Stephen Carter. And, of course, there's Corey Hogan. Hey, Carter.
Yeah.
Hey, Carter. What's the price of milk?
Oh, I don't know that.
What's the self-checkout code for bananas?
You guys just said it, but I still don't know it because I wasn't even paying attention.
Corey, I suggest replacing the cost of milk, political question, and what does a carton of eggs cost with the self-checkout code for bananas. I feel like that needs to be the new political litmus test for if you're a man of the people or a woman of the people running for elected office. Yay or nay?
So
what say you?
Are you like, you're a code guy, eh, in self-checkout? Because I'm usually like go to like the things that are most commonly used, and it's right there. Bananas is...
Oh, yeah, no, I'm a code guy. 12.51 cheese buns. 30.59 Cosmic Crisp. I'm going to out myself as Cosmic Crisp, which is a little bit of an elite apple. Okay. Let's do the apple. Let's do the apple.
Little bit of knowledge for you.
Yeah.
The bakery stuff is all store dependent, but
12.51 is
produce.
12.51.
The produce
12.51 is a cheese bun.
The code.
I bet you 12.51
tells you a bit about where it's from.
What is it? What do you mean tells you where it's from? What the hell does that mean?
If it's got a 3 at the start, it's from east of the Mississippi, and if it's got a 4,
fuck
at the start,
me,
it's from
seriously?
west of the Mississippi.
Why are we using the same metric as we use for counting seconds at a water fountain?
That's a great question. Unclear to me.
Yeah. Why is the Mississippi being reintroduced?
No, I got it.
No, it's hilarious.
No, I'm just asking.
And it got funnier when you explained it.
No, I'm just asking. I'm asking.
No, it was
why
great.
do you know
It was
this?
great.
Why do you know this? Carter, you can shut the fuck up. We just told
When
you
I
what
was-
bananas were, and you couldn't repeat it. Carter, you should not be running for political office.
I got it now, the third time.
Okay, what is it? What
is it?
bananas, Carter?
Oh, I was just bravado. It was bravado.
Yeah, that's good. Corey, should we jump into the fact that Ruby Dhalla did not get to debate tonight? Or should we jump into the fact that we all love and support Hamas? Which of these interests you the most?
Okay, well, I really think that we should provide some context to everything that we've said to point, particularly.
I don't see the reason.
Especially
Neither
the bananas?
neither does especially the bananas.
Yeah.
Fine. Do you want to provide context, or do you want to just dive into one of those two things?
The first of the liberal leadership debates was tonight. Largely an uninteresting affair where we could all pick apart and pass judgment on the French of the various candidates, who all probably speak French better than us, but we're not running to be prime ministers, so that's one thing. But in the debate, Mark Carney couldn't really answer what the weekly price of groceries was.
Where the bananas comes from.
That's where the bananas comes from. And at some point he said, I think we all agree with Hamas, when he meant to say on Hamas. Now, that's a mistake that I would make even in my first language. I certainly could forgive it in the second language, but already blowing up the internet in the kind of looking to be offended circles there. And the Ruby Dhalla thing, Ruby's going to be next prime minister. I don't know. Yeah, almost certainly.
Carter, can I actually ask a question? Is a misspeak in your second language, is there a there? Like, is there actually some meat on the bone there, or is this just a 15-minute story that doesn't actually have anything left in it by the morning time? What do you think?
I think in today's political environment, there's a there in everything, because the outrage machine is just so tuned and so on all the time that this will be clipped and it will be cut and pasted and thrown all over the internet. Elon Musk's X will be awash with this type of clip, because that's what we do now. Regardless of the fairness of it, it's what we do. And you know what? The question I would ask is, why wouldn't the Liberals do the same thing to Pierre Poilievre if Pierre Poilievre made such a misstep? Absolutely, they would.
Corey, is there a there? Like, I get what Carter's saying, that this is what we do now. We've got a 24-hour, of course, news cycle for a long time, but we've, of course, got a rapid-fire social media environment in which you're producing content all the time. You're always looking for content. There's really no penalty if it doesn't stick. So, yes, there are folks within the conservative movement, third-party groups that are going to make hay of this, but I'm really curious on the materiality of my question. Like, you're in a debate in your second language. Is there a there from the public's perspective to and how they're thinking about this and analyzing it?
Well, I do think it's a bit of a stretch that any sane human being's going to think that Mark Carney's on the side of Hamas and accidentally said what he believed, right? if there is a there, it is exactly the second language point. The
Mm.
question is his French good, right? And I think that there are certainly times tonight that Chrystia Freeland was clearly trying to push in that direction, trying to nudge, it's finishing his sentences at a certain point. I can't remember the exact context, but being like, oh, the word you're looking for is whatever.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I'm sure she would love it if people were saying, is Mark Carney's French good enough? But I don't know that there is a there. Like I said, it's a fairly innocuous mistake. What I actually can't get over, like the French thing is what the French thing is. That was always going to be the hurdle that Mark Carney had
Yeah,
today.
sure.
And the reality is that is probably one of the bigger challenges he has. None of the candidates' French is like super fluent. But what I can't get over, what I can't understand is why would the Liberals put on a debate where the Liberals pick the moderator and that moderator throw gotcha questions at the Liberals? Like, I think in many ways, the more egregious one was like the grocery question. Like, is this fucking bar trivia? Like, we're trying to just say like, oh, no, sorry, answer's wrong. What's the benefit? How do you win that question? It's designed to make people look out of touch.
I cannot agree with you more. I think I did not watch the entirety of this debate, but even the body language of this moderator, Carter, seemed to be very much like, I'm going to try my level best to ensure none of you think I am one of you, i.e. a liberal, and I'm going to ensure that every question I ask you would be asked as if I were moderating a general election debate. My neutrality is unimpeachable, so to speak.
Yeah.
Was that the right move for the party here?
No. Absolutely.
I got your take, Corey. Carter, what do you think?
Carter's take's the same.
I haven't had any thoughts in my brain for quite some time. I'm really thankful for Corey for answering the question.
Answering it twice, I guess. He's like, he introduced the question, he answered it, and then he answered it when I asked you.
I told you what your answer is.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, before you do, just the code for bananas, just before you start with that.
I really don't even care. And I watched the debate, pieces of it, parts of it, elements of it, sections of it,
You
tiny bits
did
of
not
it.
watch the debate.
Didn't watch it at all.
I did watch some of it. And then I had to turn it off.
Didn't watch any of it.
My colleague and I were watching it, and we said it was giving us a headache because it was just too much. But
Too much French?
No, not too much French. Too much both languages, because we were watching the translated version. And the translated version, it gets very annoying because you're listening to the English being spoken over the French, and it's just too much. And of course, I can't watch the French because I'm unilingual. So,
how do you
I'm
do
the
with
worst.
foreign cinema? Out of curiosity,
I read the subtitles like normal people do.
Yeah, very good.
What the hell is wrong with you? You've never seen a subtitle?
Corey.
But this is the I think that the moderator wanted to be seen as neutral, and there's a degree of acceptability in that, because this is the person. They're not just questioning the next leader of the Liberal Party; they are questioning the next prime minister. Whoever wins this leadership will be the prime minister, and by putting themselves forward as more objective, and I saw the body language. I thought the body language was interesting, but I think by making themselves more objective, more pushing on this person, I don't think that it was the slam dunk opinion of Corey Hogan. I can see why they would have gone that way.
Corey, why was it a mistake from your Carter? You're not defending the decision per se. You're saying you see the strategic reason in terms of why. Corey, you've been the executive director of a party, right? You've run a political party. Why was this not the right call to pursue? Let's just assume what they were going for was neutrality and objectivity with their moderator.
Because the thing that a party needs to do before anything else during a leadership contest is no harm. Do no harm. And you want to make sure that no matter what happens, the party overall is strengthened coming out of it here. And I get the appeal of going to a journalist. So this is like a former TVA host, Pierre Jobin, right? I get that because it seems like they should be able to ask questions. But I actually think the Alberta NDP did it better, where they found people who were NDP aligned and came in. I'm just using that because it's the example that I can immediately most recently think of.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they care about the party. And I think that matters. There is going to be an awful lot of opportunity for the people on the stage to try to take a round out of the other people on the stage. There's going to be an awful lot of opportunity for the media to do media things. But in terms of what the party is trying to do, the party is not trying to embarrass anybody. It's the same reason why you wouldn't create you know what? The best way to think about it is take it outside of a debate frame. Would you create rules that would embarrass people from a membership standpoint? Would you create rules that would embarrass people from an appeal standpoint? You wouldn't. If you thought you was doing, like, imagine if the party sent a questionnaire around to everybody or did a pop quiz on something like this in any other setting, you'd say totally inappropriate. And I think parties need to think a little bit more about that because Carter is right. We do live in a world where everything gets taken out of context. And this isn't even that. This is taken in context. It's just an embarrassing thing. Parties need to be a little bit more guarded in 2025. Like, this is not a clip that then dies. This is a clip that shows up everywhere. And it's not a clip that one of the candidates foisted on the other. I think the Liberals learned their lesson on that front from 2006 and Stéphane Dion. And do you think it's easy to make priorities, right? This is something that the moderator foisted on the Liberals. And, the party could have avoided that by picking a moderator who had the party's interests at heart.
You make a good point. And of course, we've got back-to-back debates here. By the way, we should mention to our listeners, we've got tomorrow night in English. So, you've got...
That's going to be easier for me to understand.
Well, you've got the ability to clean up. You've got the ability for Stephen Carter to understand. I assume you don't have the ability to change your moderator. But Corey makes some good points here. And frankly, I'd say I'm pretty aligned with him in the sense that you don't want to create content for the other team. And I think if the Liberal Party was worried about content being created tonight, it was worried about it from Chrystia Freeland, perhaps. And she didn't really give any big blows to Mark Carney. She didn't do what she did on the first week of the campaign, going after Carney or saying certain things that could be clippable or usable by the Conservatives. I believe that was a worry by quite a few in the Liberal establishment going into tonight and frankly heading into tomorrow night too. And let's see, maybe tonight people were going to take it easy. Tomorrow it's where the big barbs come out. So I'm not,
don't
calling the game just yet. However, I don't think anyone was expecting the moderator's sort of question line to trip folks up or to produce any content. If you were looking at this and through the lens of the Liberal Party tonight, would you be worried heading into tomorrow, Carter, around your strategy and the instructions you give for folks tomorrow night, where you expect viewership to be higher, clippability to be higher, and frankly the throughput of anything that comes out of that debate to be magnified significantly more as well?
Yeah, I'm just not going to let you drag me onto Corey's side of this argument. I'm still, you're
not giving any notes to the moderator tomorrow night after seeing what happened tonight.
Actually, I'm not giving any notes to the moderator.
No notes
either. Are you?
No notes.
I mean, you do not give a journalist notes
because you've already selected a journalist. Begging. I assume they've selected a journalist for tomorrow night.
Actually, I don't know who they have for tomorrow night.
I assume it's
a journalist too. If you talk slowly or just ask a regular Zain length question, I'll Google it and I'll find out.
Well,
you know what? Fuck you. I'm not going to ask any questions. We're going to do this in silence. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right. Well,
we're
doing it in silence. I know it's hard for you. I know it's hard for you. I know it's so hard for you.
It's
dead
really
air is like so
me.
difficult, but it's so easy for me. Carter, watch how easy this is for us. We're pros at this.
Okay, well, I don't have it. I don't know.
You don't need to speak, Corey. Corey, the whole point is you don't have to speak.
Well, we could.
We could do many things, but just.
Oh,
you don't need to say anything, Corey. Why you look it up? You don't need to say.
Hannah Thibodeau.
Wait,
is the
really?
Moderator.
You mean like the former journalist?
I assume I do.
Like the former CBC? Is she now not like a consultant?
Global Public Affairs now, I believe. Yeah.
She's moderator. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, then, here's it. Okay, now do you give notes? Now do you give notes?
But this reinforces my point. The Liberal Party is going after this like they are interviewing and they are auditioning the next prime minister of the country. And this is, to me, a good choice. I think that some of the gotcha elements were probably uncalled for. I mean, the grocery thing is just annoying. It just doesn't need to be asked. But nonetheless, I think that having a former journalist of Hannah Thibodeau's, pedigree is a fantastic choice. And I hope that she does behave like she's moderating the prime minister's debate. I think that that's the level that this party should be aspiring to. And frankly, it means that the candidates just need to do better. And so the only notes that I'd be giving are to the candidates themselves, and making sure that their performance is better because I don't think that the moderator was the one who was being judged.
Fine. I'll move on. I get it. It's a fair point. Corey,
Thank you for not dragging me into his side again one
sure.
last time.
No.
Corey, what notes would you want to give to any or all of the candidates? Pick or choose anyone you want to start with.
I mean, as a party, I'm not giving notes.
No,
to any of the
you
candidates.
as Corey Hogan, political strategist, communications person.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my overall, that's interesting. I think that the general consensus is Gold had a pretty good night. And so you've got to assume that she now feels like she's got to do the same. Freeland, probably the weakest on the stage. Bayless, surprisingly cogent, and not that there was any reason to believe he wouldn't be, but like nobody had him in the conversation, right? And Carney did Carney. Carney was clearly in some ways the best prepared. Like he had the best packaged lines, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I thought Freeland's packaged lines were a little bit weak. So I would say with Carney, it's, don't stare so much at the camera. It's stuff like that. And it's, be comfortable up there.
Yeah.
It's funny to give people the line, be comfortable up there, but I actually think he could take that line. Like he's been on enough big stages. You could say like, look, you're over scripting yourself. Don't worry about it. Be loose. You got to be a little bit more loose, right? You're a smart guy. You're an accomplished guy. Just roll with it. This is the chance for Gold really to make an impression, and for Freeland, it's like this is kind of like your last stand. You gotta bring something big.
Can I?
Freeland probably needs to come out swinging in a way she did not tonight.
Can we just zoom in on Freeland for a second before I get Carter's take on notes for candidates heading into tomorrow? You've given me your take. Do you think she will swing big? Like, would you advise her to swing big, or would you advise her to say, don't, it's over? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because there is a cost that comes with swinging big,
right,
as we've just discussed.
So I was texting with a friend in the Liberal Party today or yesterday about exactly this. Yeah. Like, does Freeland think it's so over that any damage she does is just damage, or does she think she's still got a shooter's chance here? And that's not clear to me based on how she's acting even today, right? Like I felt like she was trying to minimize damage at different points, but she wasn't entirely trying to minimize damage, right? Like she was still willing to like throw a punch or throw a snide remark. And I don't know that they were all super calculated to just not cause trouble or strife for the party. I don't know. But I also don't even know what she would do. Like it's easy to say in general terms, oh, you got to come out swinging. Well, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Does it come out saying, Mark, you can't speak French, which is not true, but I'm just trying to like create like the most aggressive thing. Like, Mark, you can't speak French. You don't know the price of groceries. You have no business being on this stage. Like, just try to put like a stiletto between his ribs or what? Like, what does this look like?
Carter,
like,
what does it look like? I'm curious what you would advise Freeland heading into tomorrow. Do you swing or do you not swing? And if you swing, what does the swing look like?
I don't think you swing for another candidate. I think you double down on how good you can be. Focus only on your own internal capacity. And this isn't the opportunity to tear anybody down. This is an opportunity to build yourself up.
To be clear, when you mean tear anybody down, you mean anyone else who's on that stage. No, you're not. Of course, like,
exactly.
Yeah,
you can destroy Pierre Poilievre. You can destroy Jagmeet Singh.
Trump.
You can go after them all day. Every moment of the debate. But Chrystia Freeland needs to say, "I'm going to be the best Chrystia Freeland. I'm not going to go after someone else."
Okay, but
Frank Bayless gets to go after anybody he wants to. He's not relevant to the party the day after this leadership is over. Karina Gould is someone who can't necessarily, can take a few punches and throw a few punches, a few jabs maybe, but isn't someone that I would advise to go after Carney or Freeland for that matter. And Carney, just to Corey's point, the advice I would give to Carney is just relax, right? Relax. The only way you're going to lose this is if you don't relax. If you are so uptight and so difficult that people think, well, that guy doesn't have a soul. But I'm not saying that that's what his performance was tonight, but the more relaxed he is, the better he is. And that's the Mark Carney that people want to see. And that's the advice that I'd be giving him if I was sitting there.
Okay. You kind of
are you sitting there though?
Are you giving him that advice?
Come on now. It's not like I'm in Vancouver, for God's sake.
That's a great point.
I'm on the other side of the country.
Why are
But
there?
you reminded me of
go ahead.
something. You reminded me of something about Freeland's performance, which is that I would say, I don't know, the first hour was her trying to show she's the tough one to stand up to Trump, right? Trying to show that she's the tough one to stand up to Poilievre. And I think every time she tried to, Carney looked better at it, right? And so...
Why?
I mean, I know you can't throw out your entire strategy at this point, but do you think you need to have the conversation if you're the Freeland campaign about how you at least shake it up so that when all of the pieces fall back down, people are kind of perceiving you? You ask why? Because of the experience he had, because of the way he was able to articulate his expertise, because of the way he comported himself. He just seemed more like the guy who would give Donald Trump a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
And I, ultimately this is fundamentally perhaps the strategy problem that Chrystia Freeland made, which is I'm the person who can most stand up to Trump because Trump doesn't like me, right? And I can understand how she made that calculation, but her entire campaign flows from that point, and I'm pretty convinced at this point she's wrong. Like, I'm pretty convinced that if that's the ballot question, Liberals go for Mark Carney.
Carter, does she have enough time to change the ballot question? Because in some ways, they're both kind of leaning into the environment here, right? Which is the Trump question helps the Liberals, so we're going to lean into the Trump question. There hasn't tried to be a lot of nuance within the Liberal leadership to say which of the sub-Trump questions helps me, per se, because I think they're all thankful that the question's not about the carbon tax, which, by the way, they've all said they're getting rid of, except Gould, who says she's going to freeze it at current levels, so to speak, right? So I don't think either of them kind of have tried to be like, well, which sub-question about Trump benefits me the most? If you're Freeland, Corey's question, you're shaking up the board a bit heading into tomorrow?
I'm not really. I think at the end of the day,
you think
this thing is going... I think so. I think so. I mean, there was some polling that came out. I didn't see that. You sent a poll out today.
I sent a tweet that had subscriber-only polling, which I didn't have access to. So I was hoping that you guys would...
This is like a business. We could have bought
No,
it,
I mean, why would we do that?
I mean, why would we? I mean, it was a
why would you buy what you can get for free,
Anyways.
which is why we're giving away one Patreon subscription.
Are we?
Well, I gave it away already. This is my way of telling you guys that I gave it to
But listen, if Freeland's campaign was, I can be toughest with Donald Trump, and people are not buying that, the shortest distance to pivot to me seems to be, I can be toughest. And if that's going to be your thing, show don't tell and beat the hell out of Carney. Now, I'm not, to the overall point, I'm not even sure it's worth it at this moment. But
do you beat the hell out of Carney, or do you show on stage how you would somehow beat a shadow box against Trump or Poilievre, right? Do you kind of almost think of them as a fifth person on stage and try to beat the shit out of them?
I get it, but I feel like we saw at least.
You thought that's what she was trying today. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I feel like that's what we got.
Carter,
you can't punch someone who's not punching you back, and Trump and Pierre Poilievre aren't punching. So, the person the only people that you can punch are the people on the stage. And there's really no way to go after Mark Carney, this is the problem with leaderships. Once you know that you're really in the dirt, it's super hard to go after them. I mean, with Alison Redford, Gary Marr was so far in front that you'd be nuts to go after him. Absolutely nuts to go after him. You had to find a different way. And her mother died.
Just like that.
Coincidentally.
I don't like what's being implied here.
No, not by me. You think I started it? He brought it up.
No, I don't.
He started it. And
what did I say?
And he never denies the rumors.
Was there anything that wasn't true in that conversation?
Would you like to go on the record and deny something for the first time?
Why would I deny anything? There's nothing to deny.
It's fucking canned answer.
Straight point, Stephen.
These are canned answers. Is there a limitation on how much you can attack Poilievre or Trump tomorrow night? We talked about how. There's a limitation on the art, how you do it. How much you do it. Is there a limitation? Carter?
Not after he just came out again today and said that they're
going ahead.
March 4th is the deadline.
Right.
That's coming up next week. It's we haven't done anything egregious in the last month. We've been trying to figure out the answers to his questions. There are no answers to his questions. So you may as well make fun of him the way the rest of the world is making fun of him. You may as well go after him the way the rest of the world is going after him. Donald Trump is the enemy, and you may as well define him as such. I just don't think you're going to be as successful at that because Donald Trump's not punching back at Chrystia Freeland.
Corey, you also agree that there's no limitation?
Yeah, you can do it as much as you want. I mean, the Freeland campaign is basically already no limits on Trump. I think the Carney campaign basically is as well, although maybe in a little bit more banker talk. But yeah, to the point, looks like tariffs are back on. Looks like the only thing that's happened in the last week that would change anybody's opinion about Donald Trump has been to change it to the negative. It was some of his commentary around the hockey game, right? Plus, let's not forget all of the other fucking stuff he's doing globally.
Yeah. We haven't talked about Russia, Ukraine. We haven't talked about, all.
So I think it's kind of zero risk. And insofar as there is an audience in Canada who says, oh boy, I'd like somebody to play a little bit nicer, they're not the people watching the Liberal leadership debate, right? They want somebody who's going to make them feel good, like there's a fighter who can take it to Trump and Poilievre and all of the people that are on their enemies list that they go to bed, repeating the names of. Like that's what you want if you're looking at a leadership debate.
Carter, agree or disagree with the following statement I'm about to throw out there? Mark Carney goes to bed.
Disagree.
Mark Carney goes to bed tonight.
Oh.
Maybe not so happy with the debate performance, fine with the debate performance, but gleeful that tariffs are back on.
Oh boy. I don't think anybody's. I'm going to disagree.
You're going to disagree, okay?
Because I'm going to disagree because I don't think anybody's going to bed thinking, you know what, the near destruction of the Canadian economy is going to be good for me.
Sure. But yes,
right.
But
it's nice to have something to punch against.
Thank you.
Sometimes you want to hit a heavy bag, and Donald Trump provides a heavy bag, right? Like this is real crisis with real implications, and we've talked about how great politicians rise to the crisis. And I think that Mark Carney could rise to this crisis. And
he put out a video today, voiced by his daughter, effectively saying, my dad responds to crisis, sort of thing, right? This is his MO, sort of thing. So
interesting video. Yeah.
We can talk about it if you'd like to.
In a minute,
sure.
Maybe.
Same question to you. Like, the different way of asking it, this is good news for the Liberals, Corey. That the fight is back on. The fight is real. You don't have to manufacture it. You don't have to fight the ghost of it. You can fight the real thing. And, at least it signals that the question of Donald Trump is not going away from the election season.
Yeah, it's slightly different than the way you phrased it with Stephen.
Sure.
And so a little easier for me to say, yeah, I think it is.
Is Mark Carney going to bed gleeful that tariffs are back on, Corey? Let me ask you: Is
yes or no? Yes or no?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I honestly don't think he is, because he is, going to have to deal with this in his wildest dreams. Like, if everything goes his way, this is a challenge for the entire country. But I do think it's undeniable that this has changed the dynamic in Canadian politics, and we can argue about how much it's changed it, but it's changed it. And I do think there's a risk, right? Like, it's almost a reverse boy who cries wolf. Let me try this one on.
A reverse boy who cries wolf. Okay, good.
Yeah. Donald Trump says it's going to be tariffs. The whole world reacts. Markets react. Justin Trudeau is giving speeches. Like, it's all happening, and the drama is high. Canadians are talking about it. It's a big deal. Seizing our imaginations. Donald Trump again today announced tariffs. Didn't feel the same energy already. Did you?
No, I was going to get to this. This is interesting that you're going here. Yes.
Yeah, all of a sudden it seems like, he said that before and he backed down. Like, there is a thing Donald Trump does, which is kind of a variant of another thing Donald Trump does. The other thing is, like, he just pings around to every fucking crazy issue. But he does this thing where he dips his toe into an issue, gets backlash, pulls back, dips his toe a little bit deeper, gets a little bit less backlash, and he just keeps going and going until there is no reactive outrage anymore, and then he just plows forward with it. And he's done this on a lot of things. He's done this on everything from, like, January 6th to comments about, Ukraine during his first impeachment to, comments basically about anybody in his orbit that he's had to disavow at any given time, right? And now he seems to be doing this with tariffs. Like, it's not going to remotely surprise me if he once again backs down and gives once again another 2 weeks or 30 days, whatnot. But the risk at this point becomes we stop we stop actually paying attention. We stop believing anything's going to happen. And so that's something I think that Canadians need to be a little bit alive to here. It's very possible that because Trudeau can't go on the television and give that solemn address every Saturday, between now and whenever he's not prime minister anymore. But Trump can continue to just ping off crazy thoughts from his head. So there's a bit of an asymmetry here. And Canadian officials better be thinking right now about how they respond to this thing in an environment where his responses cost nothing and yours cost a lot of time and interest.
Carter, this is transitioning away from tonight and tomorrow night's debate. So is there anything you wanted to add as footnotes to that before we kind of move away and start talking about Trump and the Poilievre conservatives?
No, I mean, I feel like the debate here. I mean, let me play the role of moderator, Zain. Did anything change tonight?
Well, that's built into the fact that we don't even have to ask it. No, nothing changed. No, I mean, other than that, we're all proudly Canadians, every single one of us, with Hamas.
Do we anticipate change tomorrow?
Just more with Hamas tomorrow.
Now, if he says with Hamas again tomorrow night, I'm going to start to worry. Yeah. I'm going to start to have some questions.
Yeah, but I think that this is the challenge with debates. The debates don't matter until the debates do matter, and I feel like today is one of those. The debates just didn't matter.
I don't want to just let you get away with that phrase. What do you mean by the debates don't matter until the debates do matter? You mean in hindsight we'll find debate clips that end up matter? What do you mean by that? I just want to make sure you have an opportunity to be clear on that.
Most of the time debates don't matter, and then every once in a while the debate comes in and it's the big thing. It's the thing that shifts everybody. We often use the 2015 Rachel Notley.
But in mythology, though, right? It's kind of like it's things have already been heading.
It isn't. We can literally see the debate on some polls, right? This one. The mythology of this election was written 3 weeks ago. The mythology of this election isn't going to be written because of the debates on the 24th and 25th of February.
Okay, so listen. I think that if I'm Mark Carney, my one worry is actually probably the grocery thing and how that plays in the Quebec market. I don't think it's going to be in an English debate, English advertisement for the Conservatives, because it would just be a little bit too awkward, and with the subtitles, people would be wondering what's going on. But it does feel like the kind of thing that could be taken out of context and just drummed around to say the banker doesn't know and the banker's entitled and all of this, right? So I need, if I'm him, to have a pretty good answer pretty quick to put this to bed pretty fast and say it's about a question about a family of 4. I had a family of 6. I have 4 kids. I think he has 4 kids, right, Stephen?
I have no idea. I should really read his bio.
I have family 6. They're older. I'm not quite I can't, I wasn't doing the math and trying to determine how much teenagers eat and all of that at the time. And I think that's kind of a silly question or whatever. I'm not even sure that's the right answer, but I think you need to start cobbling together some things based on your experience and maybe even illustrating your own experience throughout them there. Because the last thing you want is to be stuck with it again or to have an unsatisfactory answer when somebody asks you about it next time. And that's just an attempt to minimize damage as much as possible. But does it have legs? That really depends. That depends on how the Conservatives want to use it. That depends on how the campaign unfolds. That depends on how the Conservatives want to paint Carney. And that remains to be seen.
Corey, what did you want to say about the video? You had an interesting about the new Carney ad/video that they posted today.
Yeah, so people should go and maybe take a look at it. It's a video that is narrated by his daughter.
Yes.
It effectively says, they're going to say a bunch of stuff about my dad, and that's basically because they're scared. He's the hardest working guy I know, and he's going to work for Canada. That's the summary of the video.
And he's good in a crisis, right? Yep.
Good in a crisis. What I found interesting about it is it starts with the attacks against him.
It repeats the charge. The classic repeats the charge.
It repeats the charge. It's so interesting. I think a lot, because that is such generic advice. I think a lot about what our friend Dan Arnold, who has a rival podcast, so now our enemy Dan Arnold, I guess.
He does four episodes in 4 weeks. What a fucking loser. I'm seeing him tomorrow. I'll make sure I say that on stage with him.
Yeah, tell him I hate him now.
Good. I will, actually, I'm going to clip this. I'm going to play it for him. Okay?
He's... I remember there was an ad in 2015 where Justin Trudeau doing a walk and talk and basically saying like, people say I'm not serious or whatever, right? And then he basically flipped to, but I am. I can't remember the ad. It was so long ago, but like, he took the charge head on and then he rebutted it. And I said to Dan at the time, or somewhere nearby, I said, that ad seemed crazy to me. Like, the whole ad was the charge. You repeated the charge. And he said, yes, but everybody in Canada knew the charge. Like, that was the big difference. Like, the lightweight charge was so broad, it felt like it didn't risk anything to repeat the charge. Repeating the charge is only a problem if people haven't heard the charge. If people have heard the charge, not a problem. And I really think about that a lot. And I think that's pretty sound advice that Dan gave. But I'm not sure this is the same. Like, it just rattled off like 4 or 5 different charges, like in like video on top of each other, and said, oh, you're going to hear all these things about my dad. Doesn't rebut any of them and just moves on, right? And
my dad's very stingy with the allowance. He
call him carbon tax.
Call him carbon tax Carney at home.
Yeah, that's what we call him at home too. Yeah,
that'd actually be a better ad.
That would be
just
a
an
ad
of his family repeating the charge against him at home.
Just at home. Just
the Pierre Poilievre charges at home. Right? That actually be very funny.
He gave me allowance, but he charged me every time I wanted to take the car somewhere because of the emissions profile. But he gave me more allowance.
I was like, Dad, it's the weekend. We should hang out. And he was just so busy advising Justin Trudeau all night and all day. That would actually be... Fuck. What, Carter, put us on retainer, Corey and I. We're good.
Yeah.
Put us on retainer.
Yeah, we got this.
No, I'm just writing down right now how great you two are.
Okay.
I'm
that
just
sounds
saying.
sincere.
I found it,
great.
It was interesting to throw all of those charges out there like that. Now, don't know the audience. Maybe the audience is just liberals. I assume it is because we're in a leadership contest. But that was why I said I thought it was a bit of an interesting.
Carter, anything you want to throw out on there, or can I move to the conservatives and then because we still have to cover Ruby Dhalla, who's suggesting that no people of color will be able to run ever again, and this is a disappointment to all of us.
No, I thought when you said you were going to move on to the conservatives and Ruby Dhalla, you were talking about how Ruby Dhalla is actually a conservative.
Let's start there. Is Ruby Dhalla a conservative plant that tried to run in this leadership race, Carter?
Yeah, well, no, she wasn't a conservative plant. She just was a fucking conservative lunatic. I mean, her platform made it sound like she was running for the Conservative Party of Canada, not the Liberal Party.
She had a whole Lady Trump sort of, not just persona, like, but profile. For those who don't know, just ahead of this debate in French, and then the English one tomorrow night. She was told that there was numerous serious violations that her campaign had conducted and was kicked out of the race. Incredible moment. Incredible moment with David Cochrane, where she hears about it on air. And Cochrane breaks the story, then gets a statement. She doesn't know about the story yet. She knows that she had an interview earlier that afternoon. She doesn't know about the story, tweets back at him about the fact that she hasn't heard anything and that, what do you know that I don't know? Shows up on air, and while she's saying she doesn't know anything, they send him a statement in which he reads to her on air, which is an incredible moment that people should watch. And like a fucking epic great journalism by Cochrane from CBC. Just like getting that one story, getting the interview, and then breaking it to her live on air. That aside, Corey, she finds out on air. The question I have for you, and I really put your like executive director hat on. Why was she in the race to begin with?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand this. Like, it's not like Ruby Dhalla is not a person who doesn't have a political past that has also been checkered with, things that you would think...
Accusations.
Yeah, accusations and things you would think would make her not viable to seek this office.
Well, I think the parties are always pretty reticent to exclude people from the race without very good reason, right? And what I think is interesting about it is they did exclude one candidate.
Yeah,
they didn't
right off the bat. Yeah.
They excluded a sitting MP, but they didn't exclude her. But I think because she had been the deputy prime minister, the feeling was it might be a little awkward. Don't necessarily want to do that. And so let's just see where this goes. And certainly there was probably a feeling that it wasn't a very serious run. And it's like, well, she'll get if she gets the 50,000, then she gets the 50,000, then it becomes, well, if she pays the deposit. And at a certain point, they probably said, holy fuck, how is she paying these deposits? And I think that partly became a bit the issue, because then they start going into where's the fundraising for this campaign going or coming from, where's the financing, and things play out as they will. It's not a great look for the party, and it's very challenging to imagine that they didn't sort of regret that they had put the gates up earlier. But my gut says they just thought she'd never get over those hurdles. And then when she did, it became like something that needed to be addressed. And so I think a good lesson in, well, no, you just got to apply your rules and you've got to assume that they're going to move through it. You can argue the rules worked because they did investigations and they found apparently malfeasance. I haven't been proven in any court, but that's certainly what the party is suggesting. And so that's why she's out of the race. But it's awkward for the party. And I guess the last thing I'll say is it's not a great look that you kick somebody out of the race right after they pay the last of their deposit.
No, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. I mean,
is the money, is the gates. Yeah.
Yeah, 350,000 reasons for Ruby Dhalla to be allowed into the race. It's the same reason that Frank Bayless is there. It's the same reason. I mean, I Karina Gould. I mean, I could drag her down, but there's not 5-6 legitimate people who are running for the leadership of this race, and the $350,000. That was the obstacle. The fact that she was able to make to raise all that money is a major red flag. And I'm sure that the party had a pretty good grip on how much money she was able to raise through traditional means. But this is a hard thing to do. I was shocked that they did it immediately after she paid or not immediately, like not within the next hour or two, but the fact that this unfolded when it did, when really her right off the bat, her initial conversation, her initial positions were such that they were obviously out of line with the Liberal Party of Canada. That would have been my reasoning rationale for letting her leave the leadership race, and not allow for the financial malfeasance to actually occur. Now the Liberal Party of Canada may be in receipt of funds that they shouldn't be in receipt of.
Yeah, they might actually have to. That's a great point, Stephen. They might not be able to keep the money if their accusations are legitimate. Right?
That the money was not justified. Well, for example,
it's going to have to be returned to the donors because they were illegal campaign contributions. But that's just one of, I'd say, 3 problems the Liberals have. Right? There is the look of like the money going right to the end there. Maybe a little bit undone by problem 2, which is they'll probably have to return that money, and then. Problem 3 is a little bit of a longer, well, let's call it 4 problems. Problem 3 of the accusations that you alluded to of her saying, well, it's because I'm like a woman, a racialized woman. That's why I'm not allowed in the race, right? And then problem 4 is the way the Liberals run their race. There were 400,000 people who signed up to be eligible for this contest. But there's then a second hurdle, which is you need to show ID. And I would describe it as a high friction exercise, right?
A lot of attrition will happen, one would imagine.
Tons of attrition. And so I guarantee you, even though I don't believe any kind of sane commentator would believe it, they're going to have, let's just say for fun, fewer than 50% of the members actually get through the process.
Yeah.
She's going to claim the other 50% would have voted for her, but they were so disgusted by her being out of the race. And look at the attrition from 400,000 to the actual 150,000.
That's interesting. That's a problem. That's interesting. I never thought about that. Right? It would be natural, but she's going to take credit for it, so to speak.
She'll say this is just an example of like people saying this was a rotten contest, and then she'll get to be a commentator and make this commentary in all sorts of places. We already know has some access to funds to push that message out there.
Yeah,
so it's a bit of a problem.
Carter, get in on this around the problem that the Liberals have created for themselves, and tag on this question, which is, how do the Conservatives pour gasoline on this, or do they? Right? The extreme version of the Conservatives pouring gasoline on this is we adopt her as one of our own, we make her a candidate, we do all that sort of stuff. That seems a bit too far strategically. Maybe it isn't, though. Give me a sense of how the Conservatives kind of... She's very much aligned in terms of policy proposals to a more sort of populist conservative of the moment style. So how do the Conservatives kind of maximize the pain that this causes for the Liberal institution, if not the new Prime Minister, once he or she is appointed, elected?
Well, I think that this is exactly I think that the Conservatives could bring her into in as a candidate.
Would you advise that though?
There is, of course, I would.
Come on, you would not.
Let me take the opposite on
yeah.
that.
Let me tell you why.
He's sounding so insincere, but go ahead, make the devil's advocate. But go ahead.
Let me tell you why.
Jesus.
Because she's a nutcase. And they feel most comfortable with nutcases.
There we go.
Okay.
There it is.
There we are. That's what it was. That's what we were waiting for.
That's what we're waiting for?
Yeah. Appreciate it.
That's good.
Thanks,
Corey, do you want to
for
take the opposite of that point?
Yeah, I guess I will,
okay,
Zain.
good.
They're not nutcases. Okay. Okay, Corey. I mean, whatever.
They're not going to want to take somebody else's problem. Like, I think that if you know nothing else about Ruby Dhalla, you know that she's had a couple of problems with her political party in the past.
Yes.
And so why would you do that to yourself? It's like so many other times in Canadian history where somebody has been difficult and crossed the floor, and then the people who, get that sugar high of getting the candidate that day say, what did we do? Oh my God, there's a reason they couldn't get along with their caucus. Or Danny Williams in Newfoundland. I'm not saying every floor crosser's like this, by the way, but I'm just saying it happens.
Yes, it does.
And so
I think that's a very good point.
Political parties, they should be very cautious of things like that. And Danny Williams was everybody's friend, sticking it to Harper, right?
How would you maximize pain, though? If you're the Conservatives, you don't adopt her as one of your own. Okay.
Yeah.
What else do you do, if anything?
I mean, you can reference it. I don't think you want to go as far as platform her, like bring her up on stage with you, but you can certainly say, and you saw what they did to Ruby Dhalla there. And listen, I don't agree with a lot of what Ruby Dhalla has to say here, but she was deputy prime minister. She was a big part of the Liberal Party, and they just put her out of the way because she got in the way of carbon copy Carney and his carbon tax and all of the things he wanted to do. And he'll do it to you too. This is what the Liberals do. The Liberals manipulate. The Liberals are the establishment that is just going to get what they want no matter what's right for you or anybody else around, right? Like, it becomes just another story in the story chest. It doesn't need to be, the story doesn't require her to be there, right? In fact, in many ways, it's better if she's not, because the story can evolve in all sorts of ways that are helpful, referencing the idea of Ruby Dhalla as opposed to the reality of Ruby Dhalla, which I think we can all agree is, it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to electoral politics.
Carter, let's move on to the Conservatives. Tariffs are now coming, according to Donald Trump. We just discussed this. March 4th. How are they doing? How are they doing in their big pivot? They've done the Canada First rally. They've done the adoption of the new sort of ballot box question. They've said they're going to stick with their old ones. Axe tax is still here to stay. Great, totally rad, I would say. But
I was just going to say, I'm not sure that the pivot's been successful.
Well, it's what's interesting is that it takes them a long fucking time. It's really interesting. They were so laser focused for 2 years that the pivot still is like happening in front of our eyes, so to speak. At least in terms of what they're looking at. Tariffs are now here. The questions on Trump has not cured this problem for Pierre Poilievre. At least it doesn't seem like. What are you thinking about tonight if you're team Jenny Byrne, Pierre Poilievre, if you're the Conservatives? They're clearly spooked. Articles in the Hill Times and other places saying like, yeah, we're definitely losing support. Like, this is definitely overshadowing anything we've been talking about for the past 2 years. So yeah, this is having ramifications. The polls are now converging, lack of a better term, like showing that this is a race. Carter, you tariffs are now coming. You're not going to be able to magic wand this away and go back to carbon tax election or perhaps simply just a domestic election. What are you thinking tonight? What are you doing tonight? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, I think that the Conservatives are actually thinking tonight, how do we keep it where we need it to be, right? How do we keep the question on the actual in the space that we win? And I'm not sure that Jenny Byrne and Pierre Poilievre have figured out that there might be another question on which they win. So I think that where they are is, we know we can't win on Captain Canada. That is a losing proposition for us. But we have been successful in winning on carbon tax Carney. Let's double down on carbon tax Carney. Let's keep that as our primary message. We'll put Canada First in the window, but we're going to campaign in the same fashion. And that, to me, I'm not seeing the giant pivot, Zane. I'm not seeing the big shift. I'm seeing instead the double down on the existing message and the double down on the existing positioning. There is not much in the way of shifting, and I'm not entirely sure that that's wrong. I think that the double down has been a long standing technique. If Donald Trump starts to be the boy who cried wolf and starts to push it from March the 4th to April the 2nd, from April the 2nd to May the 5th. If every step of the way those tariffs start getting further and further away for Canadians, then maybe we start worrying about the Trudeau Liberals being taken over by Carney, who's Trudeau, just a mini-me of Trudeau. And wasn't it Ruby Dhalla's ad that did that? Made Trudeau.
Yeah. Well, ad is generous, but yeah.
Okay, yes. Meme.
Social media post.
But this is, I think that doubling down with a short window to define a new question, doubling down might be the best course of action.
Hogan?
Well,
I don't, we talked about this last time on the Patreon.
Yeah.
We went in a little bit, but I think Carter said doubling down then too, and we just moved on. I didn't get a chance to say it, but I don't think he's doubling down. Like, when you look at his ads, I would say he is easing out of his past message, but he doesn't want to look like he's pivoting. I think he's just almost too proud to say he's pivoting.
On this point, can I ask you guys, did you guys see that 60-second spot he ran during Four Nations?
Yeah, absolutely.
Carter, did you see this?
What's the Four Nations?
Okay. Just now you're pissed.
So I saw it, and
you might be alluding to that with your.
That's exactly it's the thing that's in my mind right now, where he talked about. It starts with all of the things he's been saying. Like, I can imagine constructing that ad in the room. I can imagine saying, "Okay, we've got to move from message track A to message track B, and we want to do it in an artful way that can take as much of the sentiment that we built up around message track A to message track B with us." So we're going to start this 60-second spot, and you only really buy a 60-second when you want to tell a story, right? We're going to take this 60-second spot.
Carter, are people dying around you?
Where are you staying?
That is the 5th ambulance. Are you staying at the hospital?
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. This is a different hotel that I've been in before.
What is going on? I didn't mention it the first 4 times.
Yeah, I too tried to avoid it.
It's nerve-wracking. I've seen a lot, and it's not just since we've got on the air. There's been a number even before.
Jesus,
I feel safe though. I feel safe.
That's good. What floor are you on? Not the first, I hope.
25th.
Okay, good. I'm not worried about you then. 60-second spot. You start with, hey, let me remind you of all of the things I've said before, maybe even the things that now look like I was very right about it because, for example, they're abandoning the carbon tax, right? And now they're going to move into a space where they're telling a different message, raising that flag, getting to that patriotism message as they're doing there, showing him in that tight shirt, moving it up, like how jacked he is and all of it. Like, the image he's trying to show is one of strength. And so I do get the sense that he knows that the conversation has shifted. I think he doesn't want anybody to say that he shifted, but he's clearly shifting, in my view. And I do think he's moving towards a message that's more about, we need a strong Canada, and these guys have made us weak, and that has put us in jeopardy now, and I can make us strong. And that, to me, seems like a pretty sensible version of a ballot box question for the Conservatives. Like,
right.
If it's who can protect Canada more, who loves Canada more, people will disagree. My cousin Cole and I get into this all of the time, right? He thinks anybody under 35 thinks the Conservatives are the people who protect Canada. I think the people over 35 think it's the Liberals, and there's more of them. But I just think that that's a stronger ground for them to stand on if you're the Liberals. But I think the strength one is an interesting variant on it because I do think that the Conservatives come off as stronger by and large. And so I think they're moving there, but I think they've made the decision to walk, not run, to their new message track. They know exactly how much time they have, and they're going to get there bit by bit, increment by increment over the next month.
So I'm going to ask you a question that might seem difficult to answer because it's almost philosophical. But you're saying, tell me if I'm right here, Corey. If the question's loving Canada, advantage Liberals. If the question's protecting Canada, advantage Conservatives.
I think that's a great summary. Zain.
What if the question is just simply Canada? Like what?
Well, that's not a question. That's just a
no,
word.
no, but
That's a proper noun.
But there is something to be said about the noise won't be able to talk about loving, and it'll be muddled. It'll just be about, the question will be about our country, right? People will just describe it as our country that is on the line, and loving it and protecting it are two ways of defending it or securing it or whatever you want to call it, right? If the question is just simply about the country, do you think that is a sword or a shield question for the Conservatives, based on their recent history?
Well, I'll just say, based on polling, relative to the Liberals, it's probably a shield question, right? We do know that Conservatives are far more likely to support the notion of a 51st state, like more than twice, like it's 20% or something of the Conservative base, as opposed to 3-4% of the Liberal base, and as opposed to 10% of the Canadian population. That number brought up a lot by those Conservatives.
Yes, of course.
And so, I guess if forced me to give an answer, I'd say advantage Liberal based on the very limited polling we have. But it's so funny you say that. I'm now thinking about it. Like, if this country is in such a panic, our ballot box question is just
the country,
name of country.
Kinda. I see a world where that's completely possible.
Oh, well, I mean, it sounds weird, but I'm not going to rule it out because it's been a weird year.
Ballot box question could be Canada. Carter, write it up.
Okay.
Another Carter prediction. Do you want to co-author with me?
No, that was incorrect.
Okay. Fuck you.
It's not going to be Canada.
Fuck you. We're going to move it on to our over-under in our lightning round, Stephen Carter.
Okay.
It's nearly your bedtime, so we want to get this thing going, right?
I'm in Vancouver. I don't know what to do.
8:30.
8:30.
It's a disaster. I'm already
I mean,
tired.
with the amount of ambulances, it's your permanent bedtime coming up very... It's nice to do this final episode with you.
Yeah.
Carter, overrated or underrated? The political flavor, the political amp that Four Nations was worth. Overrated or underrated?
Sorry, what was Four Nations?
Corey, overrated or underrated? The political juice that Four Nations produced.
I think it's overrated in the sense that we're not talking about it even now.
It's true.
It's underrated in the sense that if it had gone the other way, I actually think it would have been pretty damaging to the Canadian psyche.
You think so?
I do. And because, there'd be some shitty tweet from Donald Trump, and there would be, this just general malaise that was carrying over anything. But winning at hockey mattered in a way that it hasn't mattered in a long time, because we just needed the fucking win, and we needed to stick it in the guy's eye.
This is a hockey thing.
Carl, I'll ask you a political thing.
Okay.
Yeah. In or out on Mr. Doug Ford as we head into the final 3 days of the Ontario election? Has he run the masterful campaign you thought he would? It started on tariffs. No one really seems to have caught up to him on the polls. 20-point gap is what we are seeing most recently between him and Bonnie Crombie and the Liberals. High 40s and high 20s. In or out on what you've seen from Mr. Doug Ford?
Listen, you call an election when in an anti-incumbent environment, you are poised to win the election with no real harm done. Your official opposition is going to change, but really, other than that, there doesn't seem to be much to worry about. I've got to be in on Doug Ford. I think that, the guy called the campaign at the right time. This is an anti-incumbent moment, and he's going to win in something vaguely resembling a landslide.
3 days away, Corey. In or out on Ford?
Carter said it all except for one thing, which is it's even better than what he described, because in addition to winning in an anti-incumbent environment by a huge margin, likely the Liberals, by moving up into official opposition, it makes it a lot harder for them to dump Crombie, who's a terrible leader. So they're going to be stuck with her a little bit more. Man, if you get to choose your opponents like that, I mean, way to go, Doug. I mean, you and I, Doug, we've had our differences, but boy, did you win this round.
Yeah. Okay, Corey. I'm going to stick with you for our next one. Jagmeet Singh, he's back in the news. He's punched through.
I knew you were going to.
He's punched through. Well, what did you think I was going to bring up? I'm not curious.
His ad, this new ad.
Okay, so the box. Okay, well, maybe I'll bring up two things.
Well, because you said punched, so if that was a coincidence,
it was 100% a coincidence. Yes, but I have seen
power of branding.
I have seen
because you think
I've absorbed it, because when I think about fighting, I think I actually had a slightly different question, related but slightly different. But now I want to get your
Okay.
take on this Jagmeet Singh ad, and that'll give Carter enough time to watch it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's not going to. Though.
Okay,
I'm not
I'll
going
summarize it, Carter. Jagmeet Singh is boxing against a trainer and saying he's a fighter. Okay, that's the ad.
Yeah.
Talking about his past history, etc.
Yeah, now I know what you're thinking. Was this a Liberal ad from 2015?
No.
Like most things the NDP do, it is rooted in that. But no, it was not. It was actually an NDP ad.
And just like that, Corey gave both a context to Carter and the answer I was looking for.
That's right.
Carter, any thoughts on the ad that you haven't seen?
Well, I'm looking at the script right now because they posted the script online. And,
Yeah, it's a really substantive script. It's good they posted it online. You
Yeah.
don't want to lose things like I'm a fighter.
I'm disappointed, Zane.
Okay.
Even I'm disappointed in this ad that I haven't seen before.
Let me ask you the actual Jagmeet Singh question I wanted to ask you, which is, recent Ledger poll suggests he's going to stand at 14 points, 12 if Mark Carney ends up being the Liberal leader. That's where his current polling is right now. However, it's not a polling question. I'm really curious on his new message that he's adopted. He said this at an SOS Medicare thing today, and it's also quoted in this article, where he says he's going to fight like hell to defend public health care, talking about Donald Trump with his annexation of Canada. The first thing he wants to take away, and I'm paraphrasing this part, is your health care. He wants to take away the crown jewel of Canada, health care. Are you in or out, given all the limitations and all the shit you've given to Jagmeet Singh, are you in or out on this message track for Jagmeet Singh? And why? Corey, you are actively thumbs downing, like a Siskel and Ebert episode at 3:00 on the afternoon, in an afternoon
Absolutely,
on
I
PBS.
am.
Yeah. Lay it on me, Siskel. And then we'll go to Ebert.
Oh,
Carter's a natural Ebert.
No,
Oh,
come on.
absolutely.
Like I know how they got here because I've worked with the NDP in the past. They were the government when I worked for the government. I know how they got there. They're the creators of Medicare. They're the defenders of Medicare. This is how they're going to wrap themselves in the flag. This is what they're going to do.
This is their version of it. Correct. Seems to be.
Ugh. Thumbs down. Just so bad. First of all, it sounds like we're already the 51st state, and you're trying to think about as a state how we contain and maintain healthcare. Second of all,
I don't understand that first part. Explain, like,
Oh, I'll explain it.
what do you mean?
Carter will explain it. He'll
Yeah.
use small words too.
Basically, what it means, Zane, is that if you're in a car crash and someone threatens to take away your watch, right? The fact that you were in a car crash is actually the thing that you're going to remember.
Yes,
What?
100%. Perfect metaphor. I'm on board. 100%.
It's far from perfect.
It was a
Perfect
perfect metaphor.
Perfect.
So
metaphor.
wait, I crash and then
Carter,
someone
that
wants
was
my
so good.
watch.
Carter Bud, so good. 4011. That's the number.
4011.
4011.
4011. 1251 for cheese buds. That's
Call
right.
4011 and you can be live with a strategist.
No, that's
We're gonna leave it there.
you
We're gonna
lost
leave
it
it there.
again.
That's a wrap
No.
on episode 1848 J of the Strategists. Just gonna go with a very monotone.
That's bad energy on the way
I
out.
know it is, but Carter's tired.
Oh, I am. I'm going straight to bed.
My name is Zain Velji. With me, as always, Corey Hogan, Stephen Carter, and we shall see you next time.